Welcome back to our weekly Torah Portion reading. My name is Lenita Ellis. I'm the Scrappy Grandma. And this Torah Portion is week 26. And it's Shemini, not quite sure the pronunciation, but it means eighth. And let's see what this says. On the eighth day, Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. So, and it's Leviticus 9:1 through 11:47. And we will begin. First, I'm going to pray first. Father Yah, thank you so much for this time together. I pray that you bless everyone who's listening and reading along with me, that you bless their lives and that you work everything to bring them into a closer relationship in covenant with you, my King. We give you complete control of this study together. It is to glorify you and you alone and to help build up the body. So we do this all for you. So we commit it to you. We ask for your guidance, for your insight, and for your discernment. And we just thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to do this. In your son's, Yehushua's mighty name. Amen. Okay? Leviticus. First off, grab a warm beverage. Shabbat Shalom. I am recording this on Shabbat morning. And I'm having a nice cup of herbal tea from my garden, all my herbs from my garden. And I encourage you, pause this real quick, go grab something warm and pick your Bibles up and join me. All right. And what I started to say is, who would have ever thought, let's put it this way, I would have never thought that Leviticus could be so fascinating, because Leviticus was one of those books you kind of just skimmed through because it just didn't make any sense. And it was just a bunch of stuff that we were told didn't make any difference and didn't matter anyway. So I'm really enjoying digging in, and I'm just really enjoying digging in. So let's begin. 9:1. And on the eighth day, it came to be that Moshe called Aaron, it's Aharon, and I'm reading from the scriptures that replaces the Hebrew names. And so some of the names, if you're just jumping in new with us, some of the names are in Hebrew, and so they may be different than what's in your Bible. So this is, and Moshe called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. So everyone, the sons and the elders, so all the priests and the elders. And he said to Aaron, take for yourself a young bull as a sin offering and a ram as an ascending offering, a perfect one, and bring them before Yahuwah. So remember in our last portion, they were going through all the different sacrificial offerings. So we went through the sin offering and we went through the ascending offering. So now he's telling Aaron to go gather these animals for his sacrifice. Well, maybe. Let's see what it says. 3. And speak to the children of Israel, saying, take a male goat as a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both a year old, perfect ones, as an ascending offering, and a bull and a ram as peace offerings to slaughter before Yahuwah, and a grain offering mixed with oil, for today Yahuwah shall appear to you. So they're beginning a celebration, and so the priests, Aaron, they're bringing their offerings, and they've told the children of Israel to bring their offerings. So there's a lot of sacrifice and barbecue going on. So the grain offering. And so for today, Yahuwah shall appear to you. So they're doing all these offerings and celebrating because Yahuwah is going to come down. And so they've built the tabernacle, the tent tabernacle. They've now gone through what the sacrifices are for and how to do them exactly, and then how the priests are supposed to their part in all of it with the sacrifices. And now it's like go time. It's ready. Today's the day. You can imagine how long it took to put all the implements together for, the tabernacle, and then the training, and just so now everything that they've worked so hard for, it's time. It's time for the promise. So that's right. I was going to start making a little mark when I get off track so I can go right back to it, because I'm really bad at getting lost and then having to reread things. So for today, Yahuwah shall appear to you. 9:5. And they took what Moshe commanded before the tent of appointment, and all the congregation drew near and stood before Yahuwah. And Moshe said, "This is the word which Yahuwah commanded you to do, so that the esteem of Yahuwah appears to you." And Moshe said to Aaron, "Go to the slaughter place and prepare your sin offering and your ascending offering, and make atonement for yourself and for the people, and make the offering of the people, and make atonement for them as Yahuwah has commanded." So Aaron came near to the slaughter place and slew the calf of the sin offering. So they were taught, Moshe showed them, and now they're doing it. This is the real deal. This is when they go and start. This is where our sacrificial system, the animal sacrifice system, well, it didn't start here, but this is where they implemented it after coming out of captivity and re-implementing it into their life in a new, organized, drawn-out fashion by Yahuwah. Nine 8. So Aaron came near to the slaughter place and slew the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. And his sons Aaron and the sons of Aaron brought blood to him, and he dipped the finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the slaughter place, and poured the blood at the base of the slaughter place. And the fat and the kidneys and the appendage of the liver and the sin offering he burned on the slaughter place, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And the flesh and the skin he burned with fire outside the camp. And he slew the ascending offering, and the sons of Aaron presented to him the blood, which he sprinkled on the slaughter place all around. And they presented the ascending offering to him with its pieces and head, and he burned them on the slaughter place. And he washed the entrails and the legs, and he burned them on with the ascending offering on the slaughter place. And he brought the people's offering, and took the goat, which was the sin offering for the people, and slew it, and made a sin offering like the first one. And he brought the ascending offering, and made it according to the right ruling. He also brought the grain offering, and filled his hand with it, and burned it on the slaughter place, beside the ascending offering of the morning. And a lot of it probably has to do that I prayed that the Father would give me a passion for his word. And if you're struggling to be in the word, I pray that you ask him to give you a passion and a hunger and a thirst for the word, because he is so faithful. And when he does, you just, all of a sudden, everything starts to come alive, and they leap off the page, and it's so awesome. So, as I'm going through this, I'm just imagining, the excitement in the camp, the awe in the camp, the sadness and the repentance, and there's just a mixed. This is exciting because this is what they've been working towards for a long time, and they have the promise that that's coming, and now they're going through and doing all of this and making atonement so that the promise can be fulfilled. And how exciting as they're doing this for the very first time. It's just so. And he slew the bull and the ram as a slaughtering of a peace offering, which were for the people. And Aaron's son presented to him the blood, which he sprinkled on the slaughter place all around, and the fat from the bull and the ram, and the fat tail, and the covering of the kidneys and the appendage on the liver. And he placed the fat on the breast, and he burned the fat on the slaughter place. But the breast and the right thigh Aaron waved as a wave offering before Yahuwah, as Moshe had commanded. Aaron then lifted up his hand toward the people and blessed them, and came down from making the sin offering and the ascending offering and the peace offering. And Moshe and Aaron went into the tent of appointment and came out and blessed the people, and the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to all the people. And fire came out from before Yahuwah and consumed the ascending offering and the fat on the slaughter place. And all the people saw and cried aloud and fell on their faces. Okay, so remember last week in the Torah portion, they were talking about how the fire could never go out. And so they had to always make sure, that they kept the fire burning for the offerings. And here's where the fire started. To me, it's so cool that the fire that they had and that they used for their offerings, Yahuwah started that fire. And I've heard where when they would pack up and travel, they would, take an ember, and then once they got and they settled and the cloud or the pillar of fire rested, they would then, get that ember burning again. So all of the offerings were from the original fire that Yahuwah came when he came down to dwell with his people. And there's all he has wanted from the beginning in the garden, where he would walk with them in the cool of the day. And all he's wanted is to have fellowship with his people. And here now he can come down and dwell among them. And so his fire, the fire came down, and they cried aloud, and they fell on their faces. 10. And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his fire holder and put fire in it, and put incense on it, and brought strange fire before Yahuwah. This wasn't part of it, and this was not part of the instructions. But I guess in their zealousness, or maybe they wanted to look important or whatever, but they went off on their own, and maybe it was something they learned in where they lived before in Egypt, but that was something that was not requested. So let's see here. It says that they brought strange fire before Yahuwah, which he had not commanded them. And fire came out from Yahuwah and consumed them, and they died before Yahuwah. If this doesn't explain to you the seriousness of what's been given to us and his perfect will, and where he's laid it out in complete descriptions of how this is how you're to do it, and don't do it like this, do it like this, like I'm commanding you. If this doesn't explain to you the seriousness, and here they went off on their own and they added to, don't take away, don't add to. They added to it, and they're gone. And they were priests. They had been taught. They were supposed to know. They're the leadership. So for them to go and then right away, the very first time, go off and do their own thing, that's just gonna, the ripple effect, if that were allowed to continue, well, is what ends up happening anyway. But so then Moshe said to Aaron, "This is what Yahuwah spoke, saying, by those who come near me, let me be set apart. and before all the people let me be esteemed. And Aaron was silent. His two sons just, went up in smoke. And Moshe called to Mishael and to Eletzban, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, "Come near, take your brothers from before the set-apart place out of the camp." So they came near and took them by their long shirts out of the camp, as Moshe had said. And Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons, "Do not unbind your heads, nor tear your garments." Ooh, there's that, tear your garments, lest you die. Remember a few portions back when it was describing the priest, when they were putting together the priest's outfit, it said that they actually sewed extra fabric on so that it could not tear. Yehud does not want the priestly garments torn. And so it says right here, "Do not unbind your heads nor tear your garments lest you die, and the wrath come upon all the people. But let your brothers, all the house of Israel, bewail the burning which Yahuwah has kindled. And do not go out from the door of the tent of appointment lest you die, for the anointing oil of Yahuwah is upon you." And they did according to the word of Moshe. And Yahuwah spoke to Aaron. Now he's speaking straight to Aaron here. "Do not drink wine or strong drink, nor your sons with you, when you go into the tent of appointment, lest you die, a law forever throughout your generations. So as to make a distinction between the set apart and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean." Okay, so to me, these are really important things here, because this is what the instructions, the Torah, is all about, is learning how to distinguish by Yahuwah's standards what's clean and unclean, what's holy, what's set apart, and what's profane. And as we walk this walk and we seek him continuously, always, if every step, everything we choose, everything we want, everywhere we go, if we're constantly in communication with him of, give me discernment, is this of you, or is this something, and he's so faithful. We ask, and if we ask with pure heart and pure motive, which is, just to be more obedient in covenant with him, he's going to give you, he's going to answer. And so and Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar his sons, "Do not unbind your heads and do not tear your garments." I'm sorry, but and wrath come upon all the people. Okay, so I went, wait, underlined. So I apologize. Back down here, 10:10. "So as to make a distinguish between the set apart and the profane, and between the clean and the unclean." So Yahuwah spoke directly to Aaron, not through Moshe, directly to Aaron, and said, "Do not drink wine or strong drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go." Now, he didn't tell him not to drink wine at all. He didn't tell him not to drink strong drink. He just says, "When you go into the tent of appointment, lest you die, a law forever throughout your generations, so as to make a distinguish between the set apart and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean." That's pretty, lest you die, pretty serious. Is more instructions. Handle the things of Yahuwah with holiness, with purity, with, they're clean, they're holy, they're pure, and we need to reverence them and treat them as such, and not just take them for granted. And I'm one of the worst. I have taken so much for granted my entire walk. And so, this is so good, is to learn the discernment between the clean and the unclean, and the set apart and the profane, because I don't want to do anything that's unclean or profane, or anything that's an abomination, or anything that is against or added to what he has asked. So, and to teach the 10:11, "And to teach the children of Israel all the laws which Yahuwah has spoken to them by the hand of Moshe." So he's still speaking to Aaron here. He's told him, don't drink wine when you go into the tent of appointment. This is, and make a distinction between the clean and the unclean, and to teach the children of Israel. So it's the priest's duty to teach the children of Israel the laws which Yahuwah had spoken to them by the hand of Moshe. And Moshe spoke to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons who were left, take the grain offering that is left over from the offerings made by fire to Yahuwah, and eat it without leaven beside the slaughter place, for it is most set apart. Now we're getting back to the sacrificial, all the sacrificial instructions, or walking them out now. And you shall eat it in the set apart place, because it is yours by law and your sons by law, of the offerings made by fire to Yahuwah, for so I have been commanded. And the breast and the wave offering and the thigh of the contribution, you eat it in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you. So the whole family can come and eat the portions that are set apart for the priests out of the offerings. And it's awesome because the other ones I was seeing were, the sons and stuff, but it's, so the sons and the daughters, the entire family is able to, this is how the priests were cared for. This is how they ate. This was their job, was to tend to the things of Yahuwah. And so their provision was from the other tribes coming, from all of the other people coming and giving these offerings, and then their portions, their grain and their meat was contributions from the other people, the other tribes. So for they're yours by the law and your sons by the law, which are given from the slaughterings of the peace offerings of the children of Israel. And the thigh of the contribution and the breast of the wave offering, and bring with the offerings of the fat made by fire to bring as a wave offering before Yahuwah, and it shall be yours and your sons with you by a law forever, as Yahuwah had commanded. Sometimes I wish this Bible wasn't so big, but if it wasn't so big, I wouldn't be able to read it because it's large print. Yeah, so that helps a lot. And I think that's better than me trying to squint. So, all right, 10:16. And Moshe diligently looked for the goat of the sin offering, and saw it was burned up, and he was wroth with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, who were left, saying, why have you not eaten the sin offering in the set apart place, since it is the most set apart, and Elohim has given it to you to bear the crookedness of the congregation, to make atonement for them before Yahuwah? See, its blood was not brought inside the set apart place. You should have eaten it without fail in the set apart place, as I have commanded. And Aaron said to Moshe, see, today they have brought their sin offering and their ascending offering before Yahuwah, and matters like these have come to me. If I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been right in the eyes of Yahuwah? And when Moshe heard that, it was good in his eyes. So, that one's, so from what I'm understanding, they were supposed to eat it, the sin offering, their portion, but instead they burned it up. But Aaron is explaining to Moshe, for some reason, Aaron doesn't believe he should be eating the sin offering today. So I'll have to go back and look at the conditions for the sin offering, because I thought everything's supposed to be eaten up that day. I think the peace offering is the only one that can go into the second day. So I need to make a note to look at the sin offering conditions. Okay. So Aaron gave his explanation, and sorry, just a sec. And Moshe was good with it. So then 11. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Here we go. Getting into the dietary laws. Man, I tell you, this one blows my mind, because I have friends who love Yahuwah, who love Yahushua, Jesus. But boy, do they hold on to the belief that and that they love pork and shellfish so much that this really bothers them. And no, the dietary laws, they've been done, they've been done with so many things. They were for the Jews only. Now, I actually heard that a couple weeks ago from a friend of mine. Those are for the Jews. I love ham. I love bacon. Okay. And I get it, because being raised in the church, you are taught that these instructions are no longer valid, which it doesn't understand, because the do not murder and do not commit adultery and do not covet your neighbor, all of those, but they don't want to continue on it. And maybe because the sacrificial system is done away with, they think that everything's done away with. And unfortunately, the church has been really good at the doctrine that Yahushua, Jesus, came to do away with all this. I don't understand how an Elohim, the Most High, Yahuwah, the creator of the universe, who says, I do not change. I am the same today, yesterday, and forever. I do not change. How is it that he would then send his only begotten, his beloved Son, down to the earth to do away with his instructions? It doesn't make any sense. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't have to send Yahushua to make up for a mistake that he made. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, plan B. I know. No, it doesn't work. He didn't come to just erase all of this. And this isn't just Jewish history. Okay, that I'm getting riled up, because this is an area that really and I get it. Although I honestly always questioned this. Why aren't we doing these things? And the thing that I was told, Jesus nailed it to the cross. He came, I heard this just yesterday from a friend. He came to fulfill the law, which means he came. We don't have to do any of that anymore. Well, just like, she actually said that he came to fulfill and do away with the sacrifices. And I'm like, no. As far as I understand, the sacrificial system continued until they were taken into captivity. Well, when the temple was destroyed is when the sacrificial system stopped happening. Yeshua didn't come to do away with the sacrificial system. And the sacrificial system says that it will resume again. The sacrificial system will be in the millennial reign, the 1,000 years. The sacrificial system is reinstituted by Yahuwah himself. So, okay, I can't see where Yahuwah sends Yahushua, his son, to do away with the instructions that he gave us. That's me. That's my brain. But I know that the church, for many, many years as a Christian, the church gave me explanations to it that, because I hadn't looked into it myself, I'd read the word, but my eyes hadn't been open. Let's put it that way. And so there, I can take back some of my irritation and anger over the situation, and just because people's eyes just need to be open. And that's my prayer. My prayer is that people's eyes will be open, and that they will see that these aren't to be done away with. These are for our best. He gave these statutes, these laws, these commands, these instructions for us to live well in life and for our best in life. And so let's dive in to the dietary laws of Leviticus. Leviticus 11. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So here's how to determine what's food. Whatever has split hoofs completely divided, chewing the cud among the beasts that you do eat. Okay, so it has to be an animal that has split hooves and chews its cud. That's the requirement. So that's where pigs have a split hoof, but they don't chew their cud. Cows have a split hoof and they do chew their cud. Goats chew their cud, split hoof. Sheep chew their cud, split hoofs. Horses don't have split hoofs. No, horses don't chew their cud. So camels, I think I don't think camels have, I'll have to look if camels have split hoof. I think they do, but I don't know if they chew their cud. I don't think camels are clean. As far as I know, camels are not clean, not food. So anyway, there's that requirement. They have to have a complete split hoof and chew their cud among the beasts that you eat. Only these do you not eat among those. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud are those that have a split hoof. Here we go. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof. There we go. It is unclean. The rabbit, because it chews its cud but it does not have a split hoof. It is unclean to you, meaning it's not food. Unclean just means when you're in a group situation, like when they were sacrificing and everybody comes around, and then last week where it said that you could only partake if you were clean. If you're unclean, you can't partake. And and basically, okay, you just came out of the field, and your cow got out, and you're out wrangling your cow, and you've got poop and everything on you because you've been out in the field running, chasing the cow down, and they're nasty. I mean, they're cute, but they're nasty. And so, and then you go straight over and, you go to try to get some of the meat, and you haven't washed. You're unclean. And how I understand this is these animals, they're not food. They're not clean for us to eat. For whatever reason, their makeup, doesn't work with our body. Whatever Father has a reason, and we trust him because he tells us we can, and he proves to us he can be trusted. So the rabbit and the hare, which I thought was a rabbit, I guess they're different, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, yet it does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcass you do not touch. They are unclean to you, meaning they're dirty, and they can they're dirty and they can promote disease. They're unclean. Not that they're evil, they're just not clean to consume. These you do not eat at all, and that are in the waters. Okay, so these you do eat of all that are in the waters. Anyone that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, or in the rivers that you do eat. So it has to have scales and fins. So like catfish don't have scales, but they have fins. So they're unclean. Well, I bet it. Let's see what it says here. But of all of these that have fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, and all that move in the waters, or any living being which is in the waters, they are an I'm sorry, go back. 11:10. But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters, and all the living beings which in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcass you abominate. Abominate. So it's interesting. The first ones he's calling unclean. These ones he's actually calling an abomination. So, we always think, oh, pork, it's the worst, but it was listed with rabbit and hare and camel. It's unclean. Now, the fish, for some reason, are abominable. So all that have not fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you. And these you do abominate among the birds. I'm sorry, for some reason, I need to look up what abominate means. I mean, I can figure out what it means, but it's exact. Abominate. So these are the birds. And these you do abominate among the birds. They are not eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, from what my brother lived in Alaska, and he said that eagles were they were nasty birds. They hung out at the dump and they were dirty. And so that always, I was able to understand, because they're scavenger birds. So we've got the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture. Hold on. Yes. Thank you.
Abominate.
Come here. Thank you. I have my husband here. So abominate. It's a transitive verb, to detest thoroughly, to abhor, to turn from an ill omen. So abominate means they detest, they abhor these things. Thank you. Abominate. I couldn't read it from there. Okay. So we're supposed to detest and abhor, not just not eat them. We're supposed to detest and abhor the eating of those. And then same with the birds. So the eagle, the vulture, definitely see why we can't eat a vulture. The black vulture, the hawk, because it's predatory bird. The falcon after its kind, every raven, they eat garbage. I don't know, the hawks eat garbage, maybe so. And the ostrich, interesting. So ostrich is unclean. And the nighthawk and the seagull, I understand seagulls, they're disgusting too. They're just, yep. And the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl. Interesting that he names off all the different owls. And the pelican, and the caron vulture, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoi, and the bat. Well, yeah, ew, eating bat, that would be just nasty. But I know in other cultures they do. Only these you do not eat, of every flying insect that creeps on all fours. Now this is, super interesting coming up because of them making food out of bugs now. These are the ones, you can eat bugs. John the Baptist, he ate locusts and honey. So, we can eat bugs, some of them. Not that I want to eat bugs, but it's good to know which ones we can and can't. Or, no, he's telling us not to. Only these you do eat. Okay, so wait a second here. Let's go back. All the flying insects that creep on all fours is an abomination to you. So if the insect only has 4 legs, what insects have 4 legs? And it says that creeps on all fours. Those are abomination. Can't eat those. They're not food. Only these you do eat, of every flying insect that creeps on all fours. Okay, some of them. Those which have jointed legs above their feet, with which to leap on the earth. Okay, so maybe all fours just means that they creep around on their legs instead of fours. All 4. Because I don't know any bug that has 4 legs. but I'm also not a bug person. So, but if they're jointed, so basically, and can leap like a grasshopper or a locust, like John ate in the wilderness. So these of them you do eat. The Arbeth locust after its kind, and the Salom locust after its kind, and the Hargol locust after its kind, and the Hagab locust after its kind. So we can eat locusts. But all other flying insects which have 4 feet and are an abomination to you. So locusts is it. So them putting crickets and stuff, crickets aren't locusts. So you reading those labels and see which ones have crickets in them, because that's what I've seen labels where they're actually putting crickets into things now. No thank you. And by these you are made unclean. Anyone touching the carcass of any of them is unclean until evening. You know, I always, oh, you're unclean, and that's, you know, like a death sentence and stuff. And then I realized, you know, and then it said, no, unclean till evening. You know, so you touch a carcass, you can't go to the temple until after the evening, because you're unclean till the evening. It's not your, you know, you have leprosy and you're banished, is what my mind always used to think, you know, oh, he's unclean. But it's, you know, they've touched a carcass, chances are they could have germs on them, and they're unclean until evening. Usually, probably that's they clean up before they go to bed or something. So, and anyone picking up part of a carcass of any of them has to wash their garments and shall be unclean until evening. So, you know, pretty logical. Wash yourself, wash your clothes. Every beast that has a split hoof, not completely divided, or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean. And whatever goes on its paws among all the creatures that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. So any animal that has paws, raccoon, you know, of course, dogs and cats, mountain lions, bobcats, all the cat family, anything that has paws. Mice have paws, rats have paws. None of those things, they're all unclean. We're not supposed to eat them. Hamsters. So their carcass is unclean. Okay, so anyone who touches their carcass is unclean till evening. And he who picks up their carcass has to wash his garments and shall be unclean until evening. They are unclean to you. And these are unclean to you among the creepy creatures that creep on the earth, the mole, the mouse, and the tortoise after its kind. Oh, no tortuga. I remember when I lived in Mexico, we had tortuga soup. Tortoise soup. No tortoises. They're unclean. The gecko, the land crocodile, the sand reptile, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. So reptiles seem to be unclean. At least those ones are. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Anyone who touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. And whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object or garment or skin or sack. So basically, if like a mouse dies, you know, somewhere in your shed, whatever it died on is unclean. So any object with which work is done, it is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening, then it shall be clean. So gotta wash it. Makes sense. You had something die on it, you need to wash it. And on whatever any of the carcass falls becomes unclean, or an oven or cooking range, it is broken down. They are unclean and unclean to you. Wait a minute here. I missed. Didn't write it down. So if whatever object, a wooden object, a garment, a skin, a sack, any object in which work is done, it's put into water and it's unclean until evening, then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them fall, whatever it is, it becomes unclean and you break it. Yeah, if I have porous pottery, clay, and something falls into it and dies. Yeah, I don't know that we could ever get the nastiness out of there. So yeah, that's good. You break it. Makes sense. Any of the food which might be eaten on which water comes becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean. So these earthen vessels, they can carry contaminants, bacteria and stuff. So it makes things unclean. So, and on whatever any of these carcass falls becomes unclean, an oven or cooking range, it is broken down, they are unclean and are unclean to you. So I'm not sure, I think their ovens are made out of like mortar and clay and stuff. I'm not sure, but anyway. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water is clean, but whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcasses falls on any planting seed, which is to be sown, it is clean. Because it's going to be in the dirt with all kinds of rotting stuff anyway, I would imagine. But when any water is put on the seed, or any part of it touch, any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. So if it falls on just the seed, it's fine. But if water's been put to it, meaning it's already starting to grow possibly, then if the carcass falls on it, I'm just spitballing here, so I could be totally wrong. But you can correct me, honestly. You can put in the comments. You have no clue what you're talking about, because I am just kind of trying to bring it into my world and my world into it, and I'm trying to relate and understand. So, okay, 11:39. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, okay, so like your cow or my chicken dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean till evening. So I don't ever touch it. I get like a plastic bag and I turn it inside out, and then I grab it and pull it up inside the plastic bag. And so I never touch it. But I'm sure Rusty touches it, because Rusty takes care of all the nasty stuff in this house. So on the days he touches dead things, he's unclean till evening. And every swarming creature, the ones that swarm on the earth, is an abomination and is not eaten. So like bees swarm. Can't eat the bees. Whatever crawls on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all swarming creatures, the ones swarming on the earth, these you do not eat, for they are an abomination. Do not make yourselves abominable with any swarming creature, the ones swarming, and do not make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart. Here it is. We are to be set apart. Just because every restaurant you go to for breakfast has pretty much nothing but pork as an option. Just because we live in a land where breakfast is supposed to include pork, and this is, it's hard to go out to breakfast with my husband, because the options are everything pork sausage, either pork sausage links or pork sausage patties, or there's ham, bacon, everything's pork. And even if it does have some beef, it usually has pork mixed in. But we're supposed to be set apart. We're supposed to be held back. We're supposed to be different because we follow his standards, not what's in the world. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. He wants us set apart because he's set apart. He wants us set apart unto him. And you do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature and one creeping on the earth. For I am Yahuwah, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the Torah, the instructions of the beasts and the birds and every living being and the creeping creatures in the waters and of every being that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. So basically, food and non-food. And that is the end of this Torah portion. And it's pretty simple. Honestly, the dietary laws, they are laid out. They are easy to understand. he even names a lot of the animals specifically. You know, if it's in the water, it has to have scales and a fin. So all shellfish is out of the question. It's all unclean because it doesn't have scales and a fin. You know, it's simple right there. Leviticus 11, the whole chapter of Leviticus 11 gives us our dietary laws. And once you understand that Yahuwah made these statutes, made these instructions for our benefit, it makes it easy to be obedient. So there's that. We're going to move on to the Haftorah, the Torah portion. Cool little thing. I may have mentioned it before, but I just learned this recently, that the Haftorah, they started the Haftorah, which is the prophets, and when they were in captivity, and they was in Greek and Roman captivity, and the Torah was forbidden and outlawed, and so they went into the prophets and found verses that taught on the same principles, so that they taught out of the prophets, but they taught the Torah principles out of the prophets, so that they could still continue to teach their generations the Torah. So they used the Haftorah portions instead of the Torah portions, which I thought was super duper cool. So, okay, that is Ezekiel, Ezekiel 45:16. Hold on, I'm gonna freshen up, not on my Bible. That would be bad. Freshen up my tea. You can take a break if you'd like. Freshen up your tea. This past week's been a crazy week, and the past couple of weeks with my stomach, coffee's just been, can't do it. And I started drinking herbal tea, and there's even mornings when it's like my stomach is, anything that's processed is just tearing it up. And so there's mornings I just do warm water because I can't, it's weird. It's really very strange. So side note, sorry. Okay, got distracted. Squirrel. 45:16. And all the people of the land are to give this contribution to the prince of Israel. Before I'm going to stop here real quick. The Haftorah and the Gospels are a special portion, and it's called Shabbat HaChodesh. And Shabbat HaChodesh begins on April 5th at nightfall and goes till Saturday, April 6th. So next week's Sabbath, which this is for next week, I get it out to you Sunday, Monday, so that you can listen to it and then study all week long. So next Sabbath, a week from today, is Shabbat HaChodesh, which it precedes the first of the Hebrew month of Nisan, the first month of the year. So this is the new year. So next the new year, and the month of it's the month that we celebrate Passover. So next week is a special, like this week here, it is a special Shabbat. Did I write it down? I did not. This week's a special, it's Shabbat Para, which is the Sabbath before the Sabbath HaKodesh, which is the week before the Hebrew New Year begins, the new month, the first month of the year, the month we celebrate Passover. So these will correlate to that. They're, like I said, special for special Sabbath. Oh, and this portion name, Shemini, okay. Ezekiel 45:16, I've got it marked here. And all the people of the land are to give this contribution to the prince of Israel. And on the prince are the ascending offerings and the grain offerings and the drink offerings at the festival, the new moons. the Sabbaths and all the appointed times of the house of Israel. He is to prepare the sin offering and the grain offering and the ascending offering and the peace offering to make atonement for the house of Israel. Thus said Master Yahuwah, in the first month, on the first of the new moon, you are to take a young bull, a perfect one, and shall cleanse the set apart place. So at the beginning of the year, he's the priest is supposed to take a bull and sacrifice a bull, and that will be, and they're supposed to cleanse the tabernacle. So for us, next, and everyone has their own calendar, and I'm not, you know what, we're not going to know positively for sure, and so, you know, my calendar may be different than yours. I'm going off of just the resources that I'm using here, and what I feel the Father has told me for this year. But so for us, so on the first day, so the first, in the first month, on the first new moon, so the first new moon of, which I think probably is that, the 4th and the 5th, next Saturday, or next, Friday night to Saturday night, we're to take a young bull, a perfect one, shall cleanse the set apart place. Well, who is the tabernacle now? We're living tabernacles. So it's a time of cleansing, a time to maybe spend some time, so it's a special Sabbath to spend some time in reflection and repentance and cleansing. Also, we are getting ready for Pesach, the Passover, and for unleavened bread. So we need to start, which the Father's already been having me do a lot lately here, is just, seeking out, learning the profane, the set apart from the profane, the clean from the unclean, and, removing the unclean and the profane from my life. And it's something that we need to do this next month. This next, or whenever your calendar has you do this. So, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering and put it on the doorposts of the house and of the four corners of the ledge of the solder place and on the posts of the gate of the inner court. What's that sound like? And do the same on the 7th of the new moon for anyone who makes a mistake or is foolish. So if you're unclean, I would imagine, and we'll see, and you shall make atonement for the house. So there's even some grace given where you can do it a week later. And in the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon, you have the Pesach, the Passover. So, and that for me, that's, I'm going to be counting the 14 days. My calendar, I understood the 8th actually was the first day, but I have to go look at the calendar. And that my Passover, I'm celebrating on the 21st or 22nd. I have to go look at the calendar once again. So anyway, so on the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon, you have the Pesach, a festival of 7 days. Unleavened bread is eaten. So we've got the Passover and then goes right into unleavened bread. And on that day, the prince shall prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. And during the 7 days of the festival, he prepares an ascending offering to Yahuwah, 7 bulls and 7 rams, perfect ones daily for 7 days, and a male goat daily for a sin offering. And he prepares a grain offering of 1 ephah for each bull and 1 ephah for each ram, together with a hin of oil for each ephah. And in the 7th month, on the 15th day of the new moon, at the festival, he prepares, like these 7 days, as the sin offering, as the ascending offering, as the grain offering, and as the oil. Thus said Master Yahuwah, the gate of the inner court facing east is shut the 6 days of work, but on the Sabbath it is opened, and on the day of the new moon it is opened. And the prince shall enter by way of the porch and of that gate from the outside, and he shall stand by the post, and the priest shall prepare his ascending offering and his peace offerings, and he shall bow himself at the threshold of the gate, and shall go out, but the gate is not shut until evening. And the people of the land shall also bow themselves at the entrance to the gate before Yahuwah on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. And the ascending offering which the prince brings to Yahuwah on the seventh day is 6 lambs, perfect ones, and a ram, a perfect one. And the grain offering is 1 ephah for a ram, and the grain offering for the lamb, a gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for the ephah. And on the day of the new moon, a young bull, a perfect one, 6 lambs, and a ram, they should be perfect. And he prepares the grain offering of an ephah for the bull, and an ephah for the ram, and for the lambs as his hand attains, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And then the prince enters. He comes in by the way of the porch of that gate and goes out the same way. And when the people of the land enter before Yahuwah at the appointed times, whoever shall enter by way of the north gate to bow himself goes out by way of the south gate, and whoever enters by the south gate goes out by the way of the north gate. He shall not return by the way of the gate through which he came, but goes out through the opposite one. And the prince is to be in their midst, entering when they enter and going out when they go out. And in the festivals and in the appointed times, and the grain offering is an ephah for a bull, and an ephah for a ram, and for lambs the gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And when the prince makes a spontaneous ascending offering or spontaneous peace offering to Yahuwah, the gate facing east shall be opened for him, and he shall prepare his ascending offering. Wow, things are a bit different now that they're using the real temple and that they have sovereigns over them. So similar, but the gates are new because they had not been established and built their gates yet. So okay, so, and he shall prepare his ascending offerings and his peace offerings as he did on the Sabbath day, and he shall go out, and after he goes out, the gate shall be shut. And make a daily ascending offering to Yahuwah of a lamb, a year old, a perfect one, preparing it morning by morning. And prepare a grain offering with it morning by morning, 1/6 of an ephah, and 1/3 of a hin of oil to moisten the fine flour, a grain offering to Yahuwah, continual everlasting laws. And prepare the lamb and the grain offering and the oil morning by morning, a continual ascending offering. Thus says the Master Yahuwah, when the prince gives a gift of some of his inheritance to any of his sons, it belongs to his sons. It is their possession by inheritance. And when he gives a gift to some of his inheritance to one of his servants, then it shall be his till the year of release. Then it shall return to the prince. Only the inheritance of his sons is theirs. And the prince does not take any of the people's inheritance by evicting them from their possessions. He is to give his sons their inheritance from his own possessions, so that none of my people are separated from his possessions. That's Father's always looking out for all of us, and that nobody gets special treatment and nobody gets anything without, that he's just fair. He's just. Maybe not. He's fair and he's just. So, okay, next is Luke 22, 1 through 13. So, and at the festival of Matzot, which is unleavened bread, drew near, which is called Pesach. That's Passover, I'm pretty sure. Now I'm questioning myself. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to kill him, and they were feared, and they feared the people. And Satan entered into Yehuda, who was called man from Koroth, who was numbered among the 12. And he went and he spoke to so this is Judas. Yehuda was his name. And he went and he spoke with the chief priests and the captains on how they might deliver him up to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him silver. And he promised And he was seeking an occasion to deliver him up away from the crowd. And the day of unleavened bread came, when the Pesach had to be slaughtered. And he sent Kepha, Peter, and Yohanan, John, saying, "Go and prepare the Pesach for us to eat." So this makes so much more sense when you understand. I've read this a gazillion times and never understand all the intricacies of it. When you understand about Passover and how it's supposed to be walked out, and and when the lamb's supposed to be slaughtered in the evening after, between evening, and it just, this comes to life and has so much more meaning. So he sent Kepha and Yohanan, Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Pesach, the lamb, the Passover lamb, for us to eat." And they said to him, "Where do you wish us to prepare?" And he said to them, "See, as you enter into the city, a man shall meet you carrying a jar of water. Follow him to the house he enters." Isn't that cool? I just think it's awesome. And this is something I've been practicing for the past couple of months, is waking up and going about my day, just kind of letting him lead. And I never know where my day's going to end up, because I could have my ideas in my head and he has me go a completely different direction. And it's just kind of cool how he directs and guides my day. He directs and guides our day if we give him permission and access to do so. And it's an adventure. It's a lot of fun. It's a huge adventure. So, "And you shall say to the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I might eat the Pesach with my taught ones," my disciples, the Passover lamb. "And he shall show you a large furnished upper room. Prepare it there." And going, they found it as he had said to them, and they prepared the Pesach. How exciting! This is. I've been challenged this year with the whole of the feast, because I've tried over the past couple of years understanding the feasts and not really knowing how to implement and celebrate them. And unfortunately, here's the disconnect and the challenges, because there are so many different calendars. And I just encourage those of us Torah observant people that this is nothing to cause dissension, contention, or separation or division about. It is something that will all be ironed out, and we just need to love and honor each one in their as they are walking out their convictions as to when to celebrate these feasts. Because we've lost so much through time, we don't know exactly, so we need to extend grace. And so, but this year I've really been excited, but still very confused and not quite sure what to do. And it's coming, and wasn't even sure when. I was going to be celebrating it last week and then this week, and then the Father's just like, for me, he's like, "No, yours is in April." So I've been trying to learn as much as possible. Not that I'm afraid of doing it wrong. It's just I want to experience the full experience of doing it as he laid it out, because I know that's where the blessing is, in following his instructions as he has laid them out for us to follow. So I hope this has been a blessing for you. I always want to reiterate, do not trust everything I've told you here. I am just learning. You go and research it out and test everything. Not test just what I tell you, but test anything anybody tells you. Test it out. Make sure that it is backed. Let the Bible interpret the Bible. Go do your research. Make sure that, this is the be all and the end all. This is where it's answered. This is where all of the answers are. And make sure that whatever you bring in from outside sources, that you test against the word to make sure that it's following scripture. And yes, offer grace. We all are learning. None of us know everything. We all are learning, but pray for discernment and allow the Father to direct and guide and teach you, and he will bring you into all truth. And that is my prayer. Father God, thank you so much for this time. bless everyone that's going to listen to this. And Father, I pray that you open all of our eyes, remove the scales, remove the shadows, give us a clear picture, give us discernment, and lead us in your way. Teach us your statutes, your right rulings, and teach us also to, as we love you and want to follow all your statutes, teach us and in daily, the word, teach us in our comings and our goings, and just in everything that we do, to also extend grace and to love others with the love that you've shown us, one that extends grace and covers sin and prays for everyone. So Father, that's my prayer. I pray for everyone that's watching this and that ever watches this, that you will open their eyes and lead them into your truth so they can worship you, be worshipers, and worship you in spirit and truth. And we thank you that we can come to you and that you want to answer these prayers for us, because you want us to know you and be in covenant with you. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Amen, Father. Bless you all, and we'll see you next week. Bye.